Hi. Happy Wednesday. You know the deal. I'm always just making sure I'm live in the right spot. It's always like my biggest fear to go live in the wrong spot. I don't know why. And I think I'm exaggerating when I say biggest fear, but I'm always very paranoid about it. So I just like to check. I'm going to share this to my personal page. Okay, here we are. Hello. If you are here live with me, say hi so I know you're here. If you're watching the replay, still say hi. I like to know that you're watching. I like to know your opinions. If you have opinions, share them. If you have comments, share them. I don't care when you're watching, if you're live with me or not. Say what you gotta say, boo. Come on. So, I wanted to hop on and hi, Chris. Thank you for saying hi. Thank you for listening to me. Happy to have you here. So this live stream is inspired because I was having a conversation with one of my friends recently. And we were talking about addiction and how addiction can be replaced from, hey Glenn, it can go from something that is detrimental, right, to something that is healthy, which is a step in the right direction. I'm not knocking it, okay? But one of the things that was coming up for me is addiction is addiction is addiction is addiction. So addiction a lot of times comes up for us when there's something that we're avoiding, something that we're running away from. And it doesn't just, that doesn't just go away because you've replaced one addiction with another. So say you're addicted to alcohol, right? And you conquer that, but now all of a sudden you're addicted to working out. That's, I guess, a better addiction, right? But there's still something underneath. There's still something that you're running away from within yourself. There's still something that you want to numb, that you want to fix, that you want to avoid. And that's why you have this addictive pattern. So, like a personal example, for me, I used to smoke cigarettes. And when I quit smoking cigarettes, I replaced, so I was so afraid of driving without smoking a cigarette because I was younger, and pretty much when I started driving I was smoking, so I was always driving and smoking. And it's not that I was afraid, I had a real fear, but I was like, what am I gonna do? How am I gonna drive without smoking a cigarette? What? It was really mind-blowing to think about. So I knew I needed to do something to break the habit, but I did still have this habit. So what I did was I replaced a cigarette with an iced coffee. So I would treat myself to driving through, I think it was McDonald's at the time, when I was on my way to work, back when I was selling furniture. So we are going way back. So I would drive through McDonald's and have an iced coffee on the way instead of having a cigarette. So I literally just took one addiction and replaced it with another. So when I quit smoking cigarettes, I had a very strong addiction to coffee for a long time. I just recently stopped drinking coffee, 4 months now without coffee. I do miss it sometimes. I don't know if I'll go back or not, but I know my body and my energy levels feel better without it. And I know that for me, it's I don't necessarily need that external substance, that additional substance to fuel myself. I can fuel myself from within. I don't need that spark of caffeine or that hit of nicotine to numb whatever's going on, because now I'm just able to be aware of it. So there's always things going on underneath. If you have an addiction, you overcome it, and you just replace it with another addiction, it might be healthier, but there's still something going on internally that you're avoiding. So, if you're, hi Bill, if you're replacing your alcohol addiction with a exercise addiction, there's still something, what are you avoiding within yourself? Why do you feel like you need to do this all the time? Why can't you just sit with yourself and be? That's like really truly the question I want you to ask, no matter what addictions you have and whatever you're swirling around with, whatever you're replacing it with. What is happening? Why can't you just sit with yourself? Because that's really what happens with addictions. Like we have them, we take them on because we're avoiding something within ourselves. So begin to look at that. Begin to look at like what is actually happening within me, and why am I avoiding this? And yeah, I'm not knocking, like let's do baby steps, you know? Let's go from like really harmful addictions to better addictions, right? Cold turkey doesn't work for everybody. I get it. But look at the pattern. Look at what you're avoiding. Look at what's coming up for you, because there's something there. There's something internally. And no matter what you're addicted to, even if it's just like addiction to reality TV, you know, that could be considered like really harmless. But why are you turning to your reality TV to avoid what's going on within you? So it's really just about avoidance of the self. So why are you avoiding yourself? That's why addictions are cause for concern, because they're just something that you're using to avoid. Yup. So avoidance doesn't get us very far. When we avoid things, we can't heal them. When we avoid things, we're essentially trying to run away from it. And when we avoid ourselves, like we're trying to run away from ourselves, but you can never run away from yourself, because everywhere you turn, there you are. That's the saying, right? And it's so true, because, you know, like we try to avoid things within, we try to avoid our emotions, we try to avoid the hurt or the trauma or whatever it is, but it's always going to be there until you just face it. Once you face it, once you deal with it, once you really recognize what's coming up for you and what that emotion is that you're trying to avoid, things get a lot easier. So like healing doesn't happen overnight, but with that awareness, things really like shift instantaneously. Like it can happen in an instant. So become aware of what is coming up for you. Like the next time you go to numb out on food, or to go have a drink or have a cigarette or exercise or binge watch TV or whatever it is, pause for a minute and just say, what am I feeling right now that I'm trying not to feel? What's coming up for me? What memory just popped into my head that I really don't want to think about, so I'm turning to something else? That was a big one for me for a long time. Like things would churn in my head and I would be like, I don't want to think about that. Let me, you know, drink another cup of coffee, have a cigarette, whatever it was. So it's important to try not to replace your addictions with other addictions, because it's not going to get you far. Hi, Terry. So there's always something underneath that you are trying to avoid through these addictions, through these behaviors, through these patterns. So look at them. Like really look at yourself and see what is coming up, and what you're trying to avoid. So that is my main message here. For any of you that are on live with me, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them below. I am happy to answer them for you. But yeah, like I said, this was just inspired by a conversation I had with a friend, and I really just like heard within my head, addiction is addiction is addiction is addiction. Like there's no better addiction. No matter what, you're just avoiding some aspect of yourself, some part of yourself, some emotion, some trauma, something that really wants your attention. And the more you avoid it, the more you're perpetuating this lower vibrational existence that you're in. Once you face it, you can really rise up and begin to elevate and heal it and ascend. And that's the goal for everybody. So, even healthy addictions aren't great because you're still avoiding something. And I'm not coming to you holier than thou. Like there's still times where, you know, I will turn to food or turn to binge watching Netflix or something, and I'm human, you know what I mean? Like I am human. But I have an awareness now where I see it for what it is. I see myself in the moment and I recognize like, oh, this is what I'm doing. So if that happens for you, and if you have this awareness, like begin to take it into your day-to-day life, and don't use it to judge yourself. Don't, if you see yourself going into a habit or addiction or pattern where you're numbing out, don't judge yourself. Just become aware and say, oh, look, this is what I'm doing. And that's it. That's it. Because judgment isn't going to get you far either. The more you judge, the more you're going to fall into a cycle of addiction anyways. So that's that. That is my little spiel on addiction is addiction is addiction is addiction. There's always something underneath it. Always, always, always. So just dive in, grab your journal, and even just write on the top of it, like, what am I avoiding? What don't I want to feel right now? Why do I feel like I have to be doing something? Because a lot of us are also addicted to busyness. It's so true. It's so crazy. We're addicted to just being in the doing. We're addicted to having to do something because we're so afraid that once we sit still, we're going to feel all of our feelings, and we don't want to feel that. So we're doing anything we can to avoid it. So it's interesting how really anything in our lives can be used as an avoidance tactic and as a way to kind of bypass our emotions and bypass the growth and the healing. And that's just not where it's at. It's just not. That's not the goal. You know what I mean? But we all fall into it. Again, I'm not holier than thou. I am a human. But I just have a lot of experience with this, and I have a lot of personal experience with the avoidance and the numbing and the just addictions in general. I've done a lot of work around them, and I still continue to. And I've learned now to listen to my body more than my habits. And that's how I ended up, deciding to give up coffee, deciding I haven't had a drink in 4 months either. And I don't know if those are forever things, but those are what's feeling good for me right now. And it feels better for me to be living my life without those things right now in this moment. So that's what I'm going with. But it's really easy to want to just go out and have a drink. It's really easy to want to wake up and just have a cup of coffee. It's really easy to go back into those habits and patterns that we're so used to because they are there to help us avoid feeling what we have to feel. So no matter what addiction or habit or pattern you're dealing with, I invite you to look at what's coming up underneath, what you're avoiding, and what is there for you that you don't want to be there. What is coming up? Why? Ask yourself why, because only you can answer that. Even as a healer, a channel, a mentor, I can't tell you why you're doing what you're doing. I can only hold space for you to discover it and figure it out for yourself. So I invite you to ask yourself why. The answer is within. I swear, I promise, it's there. You just have to find it. And you have spent so long in your life avoiding it, avoiding that answer, avoiding that question, that you probably won't know where to look at first, and that's okay. Reach out. There's people like me ready and willing to help you. But recognize that addiction is addiction is addiction is addiction, and even healthy addictions are still avoidance of something. So with that, I'm going to leave you there. And if you have any questions or need any support, feel free to drop a comment below or message me. I am always here to chat, to hold space for you. I want to see you succeed. I want to see you live your best life. I want to see you feel good. And part of that is learning to not avoid what's coming up, to face what's coming up and look it in the eye and say, I see you. You're no longer welcome here. Goodbye. So if you need help in doing that, reach out. I am happy to help. I hope you have a beautiful, beautiful Wednesday, and I will talk to you soon. Mwah. Bye.